Hello and welcome to Biology 211. My name is Colin McLeod. This video is going to be a course introduction. So let me first introduce myself. This is my 11th year teaching. For most of my career I've been teaching courses very similar to basically 200 level courses. In college I've also spent a lot of time teaching in high school courses like AP, if you've heard of that, Advanced Placement, and IB, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And anyway, this is Biology 211, and for many of you, this may be your first very difficult science course. Last quarter was my first quarter teaching at Rogue Community College, and I introduced this course by saying this is a very difficult course, and it is also a deeply boring course. It is difficult because there is a huge amount of reading and vocabulary. It is boring because there is not a lot of depth, and there's a huge amount of breadth. At the end of this course, many of my students corrected me and told me this course was indeed not at all boring, but it was certainly very difficult, and even asked me or recommended that I emphasize even more so how difficult this course is. So I will try to comply with that request. Students, this course is difficult. You've got to take all of the reading very seriously. You've got to read it with the intention of not simply getting it done, but of genuinely understanding it and taking notes that will help you remember it later. So without further ado, let me introduce this course. Firstly, let's go over the syllabus, and you're going to have to read the syllabus a little bit on your own as well. Not a little bit, but completely as well. Okay, so the syllabus. Here is a screenshot of what the top of the syllabus looks like. That's where we are. It's spring 2020. This is me, Colin McLeod, your adjunct instructor. I do include the term adjunct there. What that means is that I am hired part-time. So as such, I'm not exactly going to be at your beck and call all the time. However, I will generally respond to any questions posted on Blackboard or sent to me by email within generally, I'm going to say 2 to 3 days, but quite often it will likely be the same day that you send it to me, or maybe a day later. And the reason being is that this is only a part-time job for me. I've got other responsibilities. All right, so here's my email. There it is. You can send me emails there. Let's see. Course description, designed primarily for, well, people like you. Will let you read this. I know that most of you are planning on going into some type of medical field, and given that, this course is very important for you to understand. It gives you a basic background so that when you read more about topics in medicine or healthcare, you will be able to understand them at a greater level. Required materials. Your textbook is right here. General biology, 211. Solomon 11th edition. You do not need the lab textbook for this course, so that'll save you a little bit of money, and that is because we are going to be doing mostly online simulations instead. All right, the first question most students ask is, what is the grading like? So your Bi 211 grade will be based on activities and assignments in the lecture portion and the lab portion of this class. Breakdown is as follows. So firstly, the lecture portion, not a big surprise. In lecture, there's going to be 3 exams. Each one is worth 100 points. There's a breakdown of the points a little later. The exams will consist of multiple choice, a few short answer, and critical thinking questions. Plan ahead and read the syllabus. On the date the exam is listed, you will have from 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. to complete it, and each exam is 80 minutes. So you've got all day on those days to get them done, and you've got to put aside some time to get those done. You'll have 80 minutes to complete them. Next, lecture homework. The lecture homework is basically at home, and in this quarter, well, everything's at home, but it is reading the book and the chapter that I have assigned, and you're going to be taking basically like a quiz, but it's homework, and it'll be on Blackboard. The questions will be on 1 or 2 chapters. They will be all multiple choice, and you don't have to complete them in a single sitting. You can do 5 questions, save it, and then come back to it later. Each assignment is due the following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So generally, they're going, no late assignments are accepted. Generally, you will see these assignments become available on the Monday of each week. So you'll have all that week until Sunday at the end of the day to get them done. There is one other type of assignment, and there's just one of them you do at once. It is an article assignment, and what that is basically this. There's a whole bunch of descriptions on Blackboard under the course information tab, and it essentially is going to ask you to look up an article in the news and talk about it. You'll write a brief summary, you'll say what you think about it, is it biased, is it fair, etc. There's more directions on Blackboard, and I encourage you to look at the directions for that now, because as we go through the course, hopefully you will cover some topics that you'll think, I would like to read a little bit more about that, and you can look up an article. So I'd encourage you to do that earlier in the course than later, so that, and I will also accept that assignment at any time in the course. So we'll talk a little bit more later about that, where you can submit that. But that'll be a grade, and it's just one time. It's only 15 points, not that much. The lab portion. So every week there's going to be some type of a lab exercise. The lab exercise is worth 15 points. Each week you can get 15 points. Let me say this, it is not that hard to get all of the points on these lab exercises. I certainly will be sometimes looking very critically at the quality of your work and the quality of your answers. However, they are mostly meant to document that you are completing what you need to complete as we go through it. Doing these lab exercises, I have been a student. I've taken online courses even recently, and I know that quite often you can feel like the main goal is to simply get it done and move on. And to some extent, well, that's just how life is, isn't it? We want to get this thing done so we can go on to the next thing. But please do focus on understanding the material. That is the goal of all assignments. And if you do that, this will help you get a better grade on your lecture exams, and it will also help you get a grade on, let me skip to the end here, on the lab exam. At the end of this course, there is a lab exam, and it will, I'm just going to read through this one, I don't want to make it miss anything. It is going to cover any procedures and any content covered in any of these lab exercises for the whole term. Theory covered in lecture that is relevant to the lab exercises will also be part of the exam, but it will be a less significant component because the labs and the lectures are obviously fairly intertwined. So when you're doing the lab exercises, focus on understanding the material. Secondly, obviously, focus on following the directions. Let's see, did I miss anything? Right, I encourage you to take notes on each of these labs in addition to following the directions. In particular, the best thing I think you can do while doing these lab exercises is when you're done, write yourself a summary of the lab, and this will, the goal being, if you read this summary later, it will help remind you of what this lab was about, and it'll help you remember what you learned in the lab. Next, each week there will be a lab quiz. They're just worth 5 points, and basically after you have completed the lab exercise, take the lab quiz. Each one of them is going to be timed, and make note of the time allowed for each of these quizzes before you begin it. So make note of the time allowed. And that'll be posted on the quiz on Blackboard. Generally, they're going to be pretty short, about 5 minutes. Most of them will be much shorter answers, generally like a 1-sentence answer or multiple choice. Every week, 5 points. No makeup quizzes will be given. The syllabus. So here's the grades. Grading scale is pretty typical. Something between 90 and 100 is an A, 89 to 80 is a B, and so forth. Over here, course points. As I said, we've got 3 lecture exams. Each one's 100 points, so total 300. Your reading homework is 80 points. This one is an area where they are not easy points to get. So read the textbook carefully as you're answering these questions. And if you are uncertain about a question, well, yes, you can ask questions on the discussion page on Blackboard each week. However, you may not post a question from the reading homework and say, hey, I can't figure this one out. Can someone please tell me what the answer is? But you could say something like, I am confused about the concept of a cell. What is a cell? And another student might answer you, and I would answer you as well. It depends on the volume. If there's 100 questions, well, I can't answer 100, but typically there's not that many, and so I'm able to answer them. Next, the article review. More details on that are on Blackboard. It's 15 points. There's a lab exam. It is only 55 points and is at the end of the quarter. Lab quizzes, 45 points. And I got to say that I might need to adjust this. This might be a little bit fewer. We have a shorter 1 week shorter quarter. So sorry, this might actually be 40 points. And let's see, lab exercises, 185 points. These are generally easy to get the points in this class. However, at the end of the quarter, the lab exam will come by, and if you have simply been kind of phoning it in on these lab exercises and just sort of, well, I followed all the directions technically and answered the questions, and they're sort of relevant and sort of right, good enough, that'll really come back to bite you on the lab exam, and you'll get a pretty good forecast of the kinds of questions that'll be on this lab exam on these lab quizzes. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise. We're also going to do a syllabus quiz the first week of class, and that is my way of making sure that you've read about this class and know what is expected of you. All right, student expectations and responsibilities. First and foremost, most students really want to know, what does the teacher think about this class? What is in the teacher's mind in terms of what do they really want me to do to be successful in this class? The short answer is this: all of your teachers just want one thing. They want you to learn. And all of their assignments are their ways of trying to, well, sort of force you to learn by attaching a grade to them. This article, you need to read it. It is posted on Blackboard under course information. It is titled Learning Your First Job, and it is the single most important piece of writing that I have ever seen in my entire career of education. I'm also a certified teacher, so I spent 2 years studying how do people learn. And this, it is a little long. Sorry, it's 10 pages, and but nonetheless, reading this is the best advice that I can give you on all of your remaining science courses, particularly if you're going on into anatomy and physiology. Those are tough courses, and this text is the raw truth of how to be successful and how to enjoy being successful in these difficult science courses. The rest of this, basically, you've probably heard this before. You're going to need to spend about 12 hours reading the text and studying in whatever manner you see fit outside of these videos, in addition to the videos. All right. Number 2, ask questions about biology on the discussion page of Blackboard. And that is mostly because if you have a question, almost certainly another student has a question as well. Now, let's say another 15 students also have a question, and all of them email me. Well, imagine this. I can answer the question once, or I can answer it 15 times. I'm going to do a much, much better job answering it one time for everybody on Blackboard if you please will just post your questions on the discussion page. Now, if you're really shy or you're insecure about the kind of question you're going to ask, yes, you can email me, and yes, I'll still answer your question. But let me tell you, there are no dumb questions. There are no bad questions. I myself have asked questions about biology in front of my students that I later sort of thought, well, that was sort of a silly question. And I'm the teacher. Aren't I supposed to know everything? Well, shucks. Everybody is wrong. Everybody misses stuff sometimes, so don't worry about it. There are no bad questions. Obviously, don't cheat. Have you heard that before? Okay, next one. All right, the syllabus. The syllabus. That's what we were talking about. So, when you get onto Blackboard, explore all of the tabs on the left. Some of them don't have anything on it, but how the internet works is basically you got to click on stuff and then read stuff and then look at stuff. So, number one, announcement page. I'm going to generally make one announcement every week, might make more, and it'll be every Monday, and it'll say what's going to happen this week. On the content page, everything you got to do is going to be organized there in terms of things you do on a weekly basis. And there will be a folder on the content page, and it'll say week one for week one. And then the second week, guess what? It's going to say week two. Discussions page. That is where you can ask me questions. And if another student asks a question and you happen to know the answer, well, you can answer it. My grades page, you know what? That's actually going to be on the next slide. My grades page. So that's where your grades are. So check it out. Next, your homework assignments. This is a question a lot of students sort of struggle with. Once you finish them and the due date has passed, you get to see the correct answers to the homework. So this is how you do that. Follow these directions. Make sure the due date has passed. Click on the assignment you are interested in. Only the homework, the reading homework assignments, is this going to be available to you on. But anyway, follow these directions and you'll be able to see what questions you got right and which questions you got wrong. Next, tentative schedule. Notice that word right there, tentative. That means probably, and it'll probably be right. Now, let's take a look at week number one, starting on April 6th. Here it says chapter. We're going to look at chapter 1 and chapter 4. Sometimes, like in week 2, we will just look at one chapter, and it just kind of depends on the week. Some weeks are a little bit bigger than others. Okay, so week 1, chapter 1, themes of biology. Notice I have made this somewhat complicated. Pages 2 through 5. That means read pages 2 through 5. Then it also says sections 1.1, 1.2, and then 1.5 through 1.7. So that means 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7. You got to do them all. Why have I done this cruel thing to you? And why is it so complicated? Why can't I just say the whole chapter? Well, I'm trying to save you a little bit of time, and I've done my best. I wasn't able to cut that much out, but I tried to cut out some of the reading to save you time. Chapter 4, you got to read the whole chapter. If I don't make any mention of what pages, it means the whole chapter. Then chapter 2, again, atoms and molecules, and it was so long I needed a second line. So page 27 through 29, and then sections 2.2, 2.3, and 2.5. Righto. Now, let's go back to what's going on in week 1. On this Monday, you'll see a homework assignment available, and is going to be due the next week, Sunday at 11:59. So that's going to be, let me write it down here, Sunday, it's hard to write with a mouse, Sunday, 11:59. Okay, 11:59 on Sunday. I know it says that it's kind of connected to here, but it's on Sunday 11:59. So the end of the week, the end of this week. Okay, so coming down to our first exam, it's on chapters 1 through 4, and as you read through here, you got a chapter 1, 4, 2, 3, 4. Notice here, this week during the exam, we're also going to continue learning stuff. So what I have done is I've put, we're going to study the plasma membrane, and that homework is going to be, let me get rid of my face here, that homework is going to be due the next week on Sunday, and the exam is due, it is going to be happening on May 1st. So what I've essentially done here is I've tried to make it so that you have, number one, time enough to study for your exam, and then also, well, we have to keep learning. So And then as you'll see on the next slide, we're going to be pretty busy. So next, right after exam 1, that was where we left off. Then there's exam 2 down here, and again we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. All of these chapters. 5 was above. That was what was that one? That was cell membranes. Here, what I have done is the week before, week number 6, I have put chapters 7 and 8. That's energy and metabolism and respiration there, and I have, what have I done here? You know, I think I gotta apologize here. These might be typos, so I'm gonna upload another syllabus in a minute here. I think those might be a little bit off there. My apologies. It's spent quite a lot of time redoing this at the last second due to this pandemic. But during week 6, what I'm going for here is this. You're going to have 2 chapters during week 6, and then on week 7, you're just going to have the exam. And that, I felt like it is going to be a little bit easier for you guys to manage your own time if I front load it. So lots of reading. Yep, it's 2 chapters. And then if you haven't finished the second one, respiration, well, I guess you'll have to finish it while you're studying for your exam. And I'm going to put the homeworks that are attached to these things, energy and metabolism and respiration. I haven't quite decided where I'm going to put them. Probably energy, I haven't quite decided. We'll come back to that. You'll see on your syllabus. All right, lastly, the last exam, it is a little bit more. It's 10, 11, 12, and 13, and 16. So there's one more chapter. Sorry, there's just no way to split it. But more or less, these are, I think, some of them anyway, are a little bit easier. And by this time, students have figured out how this course works and are able to figure out all of these chapters in time. And students generally do better on their last exam. Either 1, they're terrified of getting a low grade, or 2, they have just matured a little bit and gotten better at studying. So let me wrap things up. That is all, and welcome to Biology 211. As I said, this is a difficult course. Take all of the reading assignments seriously. Last little bit of advice on how to read the textbook. What level of detail do you need to know? Well, the big one that I try to largely stick to in terms of vocabulary is words that are in bold. You absolutely need to commit to memory, and then also pay attention to what I'm talking about in lecture. I am highlighting the more important points. All right, without further ado, again, best of luck, and I'll see you this week and next week.